Welcome back to the channel. In this video today we'll be going over the Magicka Nightblade for Elsweyr. Now, I am a Briton. I have 64 points into Magicka. My max Magicka is 35.6k. My maximum health is 16.3. My magic recovery is 1.3. The boon I'm running is the Shadow, and I'm using Witch Mother's Potent Brew. Now, if you'd like, you can use Double Bloody Mar, which will give you more max Magicka, more max health. But your recovery will drop to around, we'll say it's 1100 and something. Yeah, around 1100. So, with Siphoning ability, we can sustain pretty good at 1100. But if you like a little more recovery, this is what stats will look like with Witch Mother's Brew. Now, champion points. I have 72 into Elfborn, 64 into Elemental Expert, 19 into Spell Erosion, 19 into Staff Expert, 56 into Master at Arms, and 40 into Thermometage. Now the red isn't really as much of a big deal, but I've got 28 into Ironclad, 22 into Spell Shield, 23 Light Armor Focus, 64 Hardy, 64 Elemental Defender, 37 Bastion, and 32 Quick Recovery. Now this is just, with the red, this is just more or less a basic setup that I have for most dungeons for 4-man content. In trials, you can find you can ask your guild master or anybody about it. For the most part, there will be a sheet that you can usually find on Discord, or they'll can point you in the direction of it to where your CP should be allocated for certain trials, whether it's for Ethereum Archive, Hell Ra, Sanctum Ophidian, or Malakar. They can tell you where the optimal setup for your CP points should be for the red. But this is just more or less a basic setup that I use. 39 into Sprinter, 8 into Bashing Focus, 64 Arcanus, 64 Tenacity, 72 into Tumbling, and 23 into Shadow Ward. Inventory. When it comes to pots and stuff like that, this is Witch Mother's Double Bloody, gives you max Magicka and max health, 5.2k max Magicka, and 5.8k max health. So, our stats, let's just go ahead and step out of this. Our stats without that is 16.3 and 35.6. So, if we were to just, let me jump over here and just drink a Double Bloody Mar real quick, you can see where our stats will change to. So our max magic goes up to 39, and the magic recovery drops to 900. Maximum health goes up to 19.9. So, as you can see, so if you're good with a little, kind of low recovery, it's up to you. Me personally, I prefer Witch Mothers. Alright. So, the first set that we were running, our monster set, is Zons. Because we will be kind of up close, just so we can use our ultimate. What this does is it gives a spell crit, and when you deal damage with when you damage a nearby enemy with a light or heavy attack, you have a 20% chance to create a beam of fire that will connect you to your enemy. Beam deals 4.7k flame damage every 1 second to your enemy for 5 seconds. Every second this damage increased by 50%. The beam is broken if the enemy moves 8 meters away from you. Effect can occur once every 18 seconds. Now, in fights where you have to run around a lot, you can't stay close, Zons will not be the best setup for you. I know, like twins, if you're doing twins and that Maw, and you have to converge, and you're targeted, and you start running, you're going to break the beam. So this, Zons is not a good setup to run, or a monster set. So in replacement of that, you can go Grottar, you can go Valken Scoria. Those would be the two, for let's just say, like in that instance. Because Grottar, it gives you max Magicka, and when you deal damage, you have a 10% chance to create lava pools that swirl around you, dealing 2.3k flame damage to all enemies within 8 meters of you every 1 second for 5 seconds. That can occur once every 10 seconds. Valken Scoria gives you max health, and when you deal damage with a damage over time effect, you have an 8% chance to summon a meteor that deals 12.6k flame damage to the target, and 5.3k flame damage to all other enemies within 5 meters. Effect can occur once every 5 seconds. Now those two would be the two that I'd use, because you're moving. The targets are moving as well, especially if you get put on the side that drops the negates. He's going to be constantly moving. But if you're on, so a Lamber's would not be a good setup there, but a Lamber's is another option that you can use as a monster set, because we're going to be dealing flame damage because of the stats that we use. So when you deal flame damage, you have a 10% chance on a meteor shower of that damage type that deals 1.5k damage to all enemies within 4 meters every 1 second for 5 seconds. Each effect can occur once every 8 seconds. So if you're running around soloing, Slime Crawl's not a bad setup either. It gives you spell crit, and then it gives you minor berserk at all times, increasing your damage done by 8%. Our resolve no longer gives us that minor berserk, but let's go ahead. See what. So actually, we used to get minor berserk from this ability right here. It no longer gives it to us thanks to the update. But so solo is not bad. But if you're running with a healer in most trial setups and most trial groups, the healer is normally running combat prayer, which will give you the minor berserk, increasing your damage done by 8%. So Slime Crawl isn't really good there either. So because we're still going to get that effect, and they're not going to stack. So if you're running around soloing with no healer, then Slime Crawl would be a pretty good setup to use as well. So, out of the monster sets, Roftar, Lambert, Slime Crawl, Falcon Scoria, and Zons, every one of those is good to have, and each one has its perks in different scenarios. So, but we're running Zons for right now, and we're running a 5-1-1 setup. So we have a medium shoulder Divines and a helmet Divines with a max health enchant. If we don't have the max health enchant on, our health will drop to around 15k. So this gives us a little more health. It gives us a little more cushion. Now, the first 5-piece set we are running is Robes of Mother Sorrow. This is an overland set that you can farm in Deshawn. The chest and legs come from world bosses, and and the gloves. I do believe it's gloves. And then the waist and boots come from delve bosses. So you can farm the overland bosses, or you can just go into the public dungeon boss and farm for the body pieces. So we're running all Divines, all max Magicka. What this does, it gives us maximum Magicka, 833 spell crit, 833 spell crit, and 1924 spell crit. So we basically just get a ton of spell crit, which allows us to have this huge crit number, which gives us more chance to do a ton more damage with the Shadow Mundus Stone, because as you can see, it increases our critical damage by 19%. And then on top of that, we have passives. I want to say it's the assassination line. I could be wrong. Let me scroll down here. Okay, yeah, there it is. Increase your critical damage by 10%. So we're getting more critical damage here. Dealing critical damage grants you and your group minor savagery, increasing your weapon critical rating by 1.3k. So when we deal crit damage, our crit's going to go up even more. So we're just going to be dealing a lot of crit damage. Now, the second 5-piece set we are running is Master Architect. This comes from Halls of Fabrication. You get the gold jewelry by doing that, but you get purple then as well. But doing normal, you'll get blue jewelry. And, you can upgrade your blue to purple or take it all the way to gold if you like. Vet Halls of Fabrication is a relatively harder dungeon, but Master Architect is very nice. What this does is we are running 2 Bloodthirsty rings, both with spell damage, and an infused necklace with spell damage on it. What this does, it gives us max Magicka, minor slayer at all times, increasing your damage done to dungeon, trial, and arena monsters by 5%. Gives us spell damage, and when you use an ultimate ability, you and the closest 2 allies within 20 meters of you gain major slayer for 10 seconds, increasing your damage done to dungeon, trial, and arena monsters by 15%. We're also running on the front bar an infused flame damage enchant fire staff. So, in case that was a little confusing, we're running a flame staff on our front bar that is infused with a flame damage enchant. There we go. Let's reverse that order. So, then on our back bar, we're running an infused Maelstrom staff with a shock damage enchant on it. So, skills. Our first skill on the front bar we're running is Elemental Weapon. What this does, infuse your weapon with power, causing your next slide attack used within 2 seconds to deal an additional 7.7k magic damage, and apply the burning, concuss, or chill elemental status effect. If the power is not consumed, regain a portion of the resources spent. Now, this is from the Sigil line. So if you don't have Somerset, or you don't want to go out and really grind for this, I mean, Sigil is kind of tedious to do. So if you've done on multiple characters and don't really feel like doing it again, you have two options. You can either go with Concealed Weapon, which lasts an enemy dealing 8.3k magic damage. You're not really attacking for sneaking or invisible, and while slotted, your movement speed while sneaking or invisible is increased. So those other two effects won't really matter too much, but it does do 8.3k magic damage. This is an up close ability. You have to be within 5 meters, but it is a nice hard hitting ability that you can spam. Now the other one is Swallow Soul. Still an enemy's life force, dealing 7.8k magic damage and healing you for 36% of the damage inflicted every 2 seconds for 10 seconds. So they literally have the same cost. This does a little more damage, but this will heal you. Now on top of that, this one, because we do not have a shadow ability slotted on our front bar, we do not get this 3% increase. But we do have it slotted on our back bar, because we are using Twisting Path on our back bar. So if you wanted to keep that max health consistent across the board, you can just drop this. Let's see, so where is our health? Our health is 16.3. So if you were to put this on her front bar, it will go to 16.7. So it's a 400 point difference. So it's up to you on what you prefer to do and what you would like. But those are just options if you don't want to, whether you don't want to farm the Sigil line to get elemental weapon or not. It's up to you. Our second ability is Crippling Grasp, sap an enemy's agility and rack them with pain, dealing 3.1k magic damage and additional 17.2k magic damage over 10 seconds, immobilizing them for 2 seconds and reducing movement speed by 30% for 4 seconds. This is one of our huge dots. So you want to kind of keep this down. You can use Deliberate as well, or Debilitate. Can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. It just goes on multiple targets, but this one is the more powerful one. And for the most part, it is a single target ability anyways, so you might as well just go ahead and use Crippling Grasp because it is a stronger one of the two. Impale. This is our Execute. Throw a magic blade with lethal precision to strike an enemy, dealing 4.1k magic damage and deals 300% more damage to enemies below 25% health. So as you can see, we're not going to use this unless the enemy is below 25% health. And honestly, depending on what boss it is, if you're facing a target that drops below 25% health, around 400,000, fine. Go ahead and start spamming it then. If you're using it against an enemy that still has 10 million health, like in Vet, or not really just Vet, but like in normal Asylum, then you're not really going to start spamming it then. Merciless Resolve. Focus your senses for 20 seconds, reducing your damage taken by 3% with every light or heavy attack up to 5 times. While active, hit an enemy with 5 light or heavy attacks converts this ability into Assassin's Will, allowing you to fire a spectral arrow for half cost that deals 17k magic damage and heals for 50% of the damage dealt if you are within 7 meters of the enemy. The Inner Light, not really too worried about the first paragraph there, but while slaughter your max Magicka is increased by 5%, you gain Major Prophecy, increasing your spell critical rating by 2.1k. And then Soul Harvest. Ravage an enemy with a spinning attack, dealing 13.4k magic damage and increasing your damage against them by 20% for 6 seconds. Also afflicts enemy with Major Defile, reducing their healing received, health recovered by 30%. While slotted, anytime you kill an enemy, you gain 10 ultimate. This is one of the reasons why we're using Soul Harvest or Master Architect, is because Soul Harvest is the main ultimate you're going to be using anyways to increase your damage by 20%. But at the same time, we're going to get Major Slayer off of it, and while having it on our front bar, it increases our, normally you run it on a back bar, but we can put it on our front bar with Master Architect, because having it on the front bar, it's going to increase our critical damage by 10%. It's going to increase your weapon and spell critical rating by 439 for each assassination ability slotted. We're at 1.3 because we have 3. We have Impel, Merciless Resolve, and Soul Harvest. Plus, because we're going to be on our front bar more than anything, Soul Harvest is basically going to allow us to collect ultimate back. And then on top of that, let's see, I think it's in the Siphoning line. After we drink a potion, you're going to gain 20 ultimate. So we're going to get the 70 ultimate back pretty quickly. I mean, normally I have it back within the, as you're killing targets, because you got the drinking the potion, the killing the enemies. You have the passive from the siphoning line, to where when you activate a siphoning ability, you generate 2 ultimate. Effect can occur once every 4 seconds. So you have Siphoning Attack there, which is a siphon ability, and you have Crippling Grasp. So it tends to work out pretty good, and you gain your ultimate back. Plus, on top of that, with Fire Skill passives, Banish the Wicked. When you kill an undead, Daedra, or werewolf, you gain 9 ultimate. So we tend to gain our ultimate back extremely fast. So we can pop it again. But, as always, if you do generate this back before, because keep in mind, Master Architect with Major Slayer lasts for 10 seconds. So even if you can get that back within 10 seconds, you don't want to cast it until this is up, either on the last second or, a second after it goes down to keep it up, because you don't want to overcast it. You want to make sure you're getting the full 10 seconds out of that. Now, our back bar, Twisting Path, create a corridor of shadows, granting you and allies in an area major expedition, increasing movement speed by 30%. Effect persists for 4 seconds after leaving the path. Deals 1.4k magic damage to enemies in the target area every 1 second. And then we have Blockade of Fire. Slam your staff down to create a flaming barrier in front of you, dealing 1.8k fling damage to enemies in the target area every 1 second. Burning enemies take 20% more damage from this ability. So because you're going to keep this down the majority of the time, this is one of the abilities that you need to keep down at all times. When you prop burning with this is just going to deal more damage on top of that. And then we have our shield on our back bar, Harness Magicka, surround yourself with a net magic negation to absorb up to 6.7k damage over 6 seconds. Damage shield strength capped at 40% of your max health. While active up to 3 times, when spell damage is absorbed, you restore 1000 magic. Each piece of light armor will increase the magic restored by 6%. You have Harness Magicka and you have Dampening Magic. Either one of them works. Dampening Magic just gives you a stronger shield. Harness Magicka will allow you to restore Magicka. So it's up to you on which one you want to use. Siphoning Attacks imbue your weapons with soul-stealing power, causing your light and heavy attacks to heal you for 1.4k health and restore 106 Magicka for 20 seconds. Fully charged heavy attacks restore twice the value. You can restore up to 4.2k additional magic when the effect ends based on length of time siphoning attacks are activated. And then we have Channel Acceleration. Bend time and space around you and gain Major Expedition for 12 seconds and Minor Force for 36 seconds, increasing your movement speed by 30% and critical damage by 10%. Now again, this is another one from the Sigil line. This is the higher up. I think you have to get to level 5 in order to unlock this one. I think that was just level 3. But if you don't want to farm the Sigil line, you can always go with Trap Beast from the Fighters Guild. I would go Rearming Trap. So you're going to be close anyways. What this does, it sets the sharpened blade trap at your location, which takes 1.5 seconds to arm and lasts for 1 minute. When triggered, the trap deals physical damage, 1,000 physical damage, and additional 2.7k physical damage over 6 seconds. Mobilizes the enemy for 6 seconds, grants you minor force and critical damage by 10%. So essentially, having this on your back bar, you're going to be able to cast it every rotation to keep it going. But with this, you'll cast it every 2 to 3 rotations. So. And then our final ultimate is Fiery Rage. Create a catalytic storm with target location that builds for 2 seconds. Then allows waste to all enemies in the area, dealing 8k flame damage every 1 second for 7 seconds. This is just a big, surrounded by enemies, drop Fiery Rage, bar swap, and you'll fill your ultimate back up for this relatively quickly. And for the most part, you should have this backup anyways, because if it's killing enemies and you have 7 enemies there, you're going to get that back just by killing them. So with Merciless Resolve, let's go ahead and go over a couple of the abilities, I guess. With Siphoning Attacks 4, you want to kind of leave this up as long as possible, because you want to get as much back as you can. Now, if you're during execute phase and you just want that little bit of extra damage, or you need that little bit just for those last few impels, you can go ahead and cast it a little early and you'll restore some. Now, Merciless Resolve, you're going to see it as you attack, as you throw out light attacks and stuff. that the bow will change. There's Zon's proccing. So when it procs, you just fire it off. You see it, 27k crit. So you don't have to recast it after every fire, as long as the time is not up. Looks like the time is up on my bar. Yeah. Okay. Let's cast. So there's 5. Fire. And there it is again. So normally you'll be able to get off at least 2 shots before you have to recast it to begin with. So, as you can see, this is a very hard hitting ability, especially when you fire it. As you saw, one bow hit for 27k. So, that alone. So this is one of the reasons why you still, even though it doesn't give you minor berserk anymore, you still want to keep that up. Because, I mean, it's just a very powerful attack. And as you're going through your rotation, you know, this right here, your elemental weapons remain spammable. It's a light attack. That's all it is. So you'll cast it, light attack. Cast it, light attack. So while you have that up, so you're basically, with that up, and while you're casting your spammable, you're getting the light attack passives for Merciless Resolve. So it really, you should always be, so just make sure to put it in your rotation to cast it, and you'll be fine. It's really not that hard to keep that up. Wall of Elements, Refreshing Path. There's or not Refreshing Path, but Twisting Path. There is a 4-second difference in the cast. So you can either overcast it, or you can just, after every 4 seconds, just bar swap back, and just recast it, and then swap to the front, fire you off another shot, then bar swap back, go Wall of Elements, and then just bar swap back. And then, you know, you can fire this one off, because this lasts for 10 seconds, and then just fire this off a couple more times. And fire your bow when you get it. So the rotation, it's kind of a dynamic rotation with a mag blade. So there's multiple ways you can fire off you can do a rotation for a mag blade. It's just entirely up to you on how you want to do it. But for the most part, when it comes to the abilities, you want to keep this up, because you should be weaving your attacks, and that bow proc is very, it's a hard hitting ability. Keep this down, 10 seconds. Those are just, you just spam it and light attack. Hit it, light attack. This lasts for 8 seconds. You want to keep it down to make your light attacks do even more with the Maelstrom Staff. And then Twisting Path lasts for 12 seconds. So, the best thing to know is to just keep, because the one thing with the rotation is that this lasts 10 seconds, this lasts 12 seconds, and that lasts 8 seconds. So, you know, you can also go Blockade of Fire, rotate, Crippling Grasp, rotate, Twisting Path, rotate, and then spam that off if you'd like. It is a complicated rotation, but with practice, you can get it down. Your main focus is just to keep your abilities up at all times. So, that is pretty much the ability build. Outside of that, the pots that we use is Essence of Spell Power. If you don't have Halls of Fabrication, which comes from Morrowind, you know, for whatever reason, you're having trouble getting a group through there, because I understand sometimes it can still be a pain. You can always go with Burning Spellweave. Let me see if I pulled that out. I guess I did not. That is on me. I know when I was looking over this, I was sitting here thinking, I need to pull out Burning Spellweave. I guess I forgot to. Alright. Burning Spellweave, though, comes from like Overland sets, Trial sets. Alright. Burning Spellweave comes from City of Ash. It's a relatively easy dungeon to farm. And all it does is that adds max Magicka, spell damage, spell crit. When you deal damage with a flame damage ability, you have a 15% chance to apply the burning status effect to the enemies. Increase your spell damage by 525 for 8 seconds. Now, if you're not using early weapon, you're using Swallow Soul or Concealed Weapon, you can also go with Scathing Mage. It gives you max Magicka, spell crit when you deal direct critical damage, you have a 20% chance to increase your spell damage by 516 for 6 seconds. This effect can occur once every 6 seconds. So those are the other 2 sets that I would run over Master Architect. If you don't have it, then just if you don't have a Melstner Staff either, I would just get Mother Sorrow here. I would get their Fire Staff. 2 Fire Staffs for those because, well, Burning Spellweave Staff is kind of can be a pain to get. I know some people farm them and they still have yet to get more than even 1. Scathing Mage Inferno Staffs can be a pain to get as well. So if you want to, you can get Mother Sorrow Inferno Staffs would probably be the easier one to get, and then just run it on the jewelry and the body, or however you want. You can just mix it up. So yeah, so that's pretty much the build. The other sets that I would run with it would be either Burning Spellweave or Scathing Mage, along with Mother Sorrow and Master Architect. You can still go Saurius from Cloud Rest if you'd like. But yeah, so until next time, take care.